Extension Master Gardeners are trained volunteer educators. They work within their local communities to encourage and promote environmentally sound horticulture practices through sustainable landscape management education and training. As an educational outreach component of Virginia Cooperative Extension, the Master Gardener program brings the resources of Virginia's land-grant universities, Virginia Tech and Virginia State University, to the people of the Commonwealth.
I'm Christina Verderosa. I'm a Newport News, Virginia Master Gardener and Tree Steward.
I'm Carol King, the same, but from Hampton.
And we're here today to talk about English ivy. Now, English ivy has its place, and that place is in your house as a house plant if you want it. It's a nice addition to a pot or a hanging basket. There is even some possibility that it can improve indoor air quality. But you don't want it in your landscape. And the reason you don't is because it's highly invasive. It's an aggressive spreader throughout landscapes. It's escaped cultivation, gotten into forested and open areas with disastrous results in some cases. It can be contained, but you better be ready to put in the work if you want to do that.
Right, so ivy in particular is a threat to trees. What it does is it spreads all over, as you can see above on this huge black walnut. It spreads all over to cover the bark, the branches, the little twigs, and it cuts off the sunlight to any of the leaves of the tree that may want to grow underneath where that ivy is. They also weigh a lot. Plant matter, we don't tend to think of it that way, but plant matter can be quite heavy. And an infestation as heavy as this of English ivy on admittedly maybe a little smaller tree could seriously overweigh and contribute to that tree toppling in adverse weather conditions. So that's another reason why you don't want to. The other thing it does is that ivy conceals whatever may be going on under it on the trunk. So if there's some kind of disease or pest that may be underneath there, no one will ever see it until it's too late. Now, this particular tree has, because this is such a large infestation, it has the adult form as well as the juvenile form. Many people don't know there is a juvenile form. This is the regular juvenile form. That's what we all know as English ivy. When it goes up enough vertically on the bark of a tree, it will turn into this adult form of the leaf, have flowers, and then these are on their way to being the black berries later on in the winter. An interesting tidbit, but another reason why you want to keep it out of the trees is because the birds love these berries and they will carry them all over the place, contributing to the invasive nature.
So it is very important that if you have infested trees, that you remove the ivy as much as possible. If the infestation is very heavy like this one, a good way to start may be just to clear away a little spot to just see what you have there, see how heavy it is, as Carol is doing here with the pruning shears, so you can get a good look at what you're dealing with there. Now to start, you can use, we have our tools here on the table. You can use pruning shears, you can use your hands, you can use large loppers, you can use a knife, a machete, or a pruning saw, depending on how much you have to deal with there. Now to start with, for a smaller infestation there, you get down near the bottom of the tree. We'll get a little bit more off there so we can see what we're doing.
Do this now towards the bottom.
Yeah, down towards the bottom.
For demonstration purposes, I'm going to work right here.
Okay. So what you do is you cut, you get under the stem and you cut it, being as careful as you can not to damage the bark of the tree. So you cut a piece and then you cut another piece In most cases, if you're down the bottom, you'll be cutting above where you cut eventually.
Which you could get.
Yeah, and then you take that piece off and you want to dispose of it. Get it out of there as much as you can. And you want to do that all the way around the tree. Now you take out the pieces you cut, but make sure that the pieces above that, you leave them alone. If you try to pull these down, you'll cause some serious bark damage there. But what happens, what happens is as you can see here, the ivy has these root-like structures which grow into the bark there, and they also exude a glue-like structure. So if you try to pull them off, you'll get serious bark damage, but if you leave them on, they'll just die and drop off eventually.
You can see some previous clearance right here where it's coming back down below, but this one is going to die. There's some dead ones right there, dead leaves, and eventually those rootlets will release and it will all fall off. But you can see where the piece we had to pull off, you can see where it did damage the bark. You just don't want to do more of that up and down.
Yeah. Now, for some of the really heavy infestations for these big roots like this, you'll need some of your bigger tools there, such as Carol is showing us here with the machete. Once again,
Garden knife, but
garden knife.
Machete.
Yeah, garden knife. You'll have to kind of maybe dig under the root to move it a bit there. But once again, be very careful not to or to minimize damaging the bark. Get your big loppers in if you need, and cut. And you basically follow the same procedure there. You cut a gap in here. If you don't leave a big enough gap, the ivy can actually grow back together again. So it's very important to leave sufficient space. And there you go. Now, once you're through with all your cutting there, sanitation is extremely important. Make sure you clear away all the ivy that you've cut off. Don't leave it here unless you want more. And you also want to consider, if it's coming right up to the tree, to remove it from near the tree for maybe a couple of feet there. If you're really ambitious and want to get rid of if you have a big ivy infestation in your landscape, there are methods to deal with that, both mechanical and chemical.
Right, so that would consist in trying to kill the root chemically, or I have found that, or smother it, but I have found that if you keep after it, that is, whenever it starts, you need to get it all the way down to here, and then you keep after it whenever it starts to come out again, eventually it does give up.
So the big things to remember is to, sanitation, cut the pieces, remove the excess pieces there, but to keep it under control. You go to your local garden center, you're going to see English ivy for sale there. Don't get it. If you don't have it,
Inside the house.
Yes, if you don't, buy a nice little pot of it for your bathroom or something there. Don't put it in your yard. If you already have it in your yard, be vigilant, and you can keep it under control.